Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to my first Creative Night Skies workshop. This is Roseanne Hanson. I run my own Field Arts Institute and also the what I've been starting to call the Nature Journal Academy. So this is about how to capture the night skies in our journals. And I've been experimenting with lots of different ways over the last few years. And I'm going to show you some really fun, some really easy ways, and then kind of will segue into preparing some pages in your journal ahead of time that you can then use to put observations later, and that involves watercolor washes. So those are a little more advanced. And what I'll start with is showing you some of these fun ideas and some creative ones too. This is called Creative Night Skies. And then we'll kind of move into the watercolor part. And so you don't have to sit here watching paint dry. I've prepped a few pages ahead of time, and I'll also show you some washes and how we do that. So let me start by showing a few of the fun ideas we can use for journaling our night skies. So you should be seeing a little slideshow. Have we got that going? Somebody can just say verbally, yes, you can see the slideshow.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So one of the fun things about being out, of course, is being able to observe the night sky, and we want to record it in our journals. And here we are at the Sonoran Desert Field Arts Boot Camp in April, and Beverly is using the spotting scope to look at stars, planets, clusters, all sorts of things, even the moon we were looking at. Let me remind you guys too, I'll just say that while I'm giving a little presentation like this, I cannot read the chat. So if something goes wonky or you have a question, just say it out loud. I can't access the chat easily, so just let me know. I see someone put something in the chat, so if we can get to it later, that's great. So how do we record these things that we're seeing? You're seeing this beautiful sky, and then you've got this white paper. Well, there's some things we can do to translate stars to our journals, and this is what Beverly was doing there that evening. This is like totally low tech, super easy. She took photos through the spotting scope. That's what she's doing there, of different views. That was, I believe, Jupiter, and then the Pleiades, and there's Orion. And all she did was prepare squares in her journal ahead of time using nothing more elaborate than a Sharpie pen. And then she also had some really fun markers that were metallic, and then also a gel pen to write on top of the Sharpie. That is just completely low tech and easy, and we'll play with that too. You can also I keep sheets cut to the size of my journal of black art paper in my journal, and then I actually drew this one lying on my back that same evening. I put out a blanket next to where Beverly was standing, and I sketched in the location of the Pleiades, Venus, Aldebaran, Orion, and I was using a red headlamp and then my white charcoal pencil, and I just lightly sketched in the dots, and then the line going up and down is to approximate the plane of the ecliptic. And so then later that evening in the ranch house, I added, using gel pen, the labels and approximation of the horizon, just to give us an idea. And always remember when you're recording these things to write the direction that you're looking so that it makes orientation proper for your location, and always write the location as well. Here's an example of fun. This is more of an arty thing. I didn't do it while I was out observing the blood moon in November of 2022, but you can use other colored pencils on black paper. And also, if you have access to fun, like metallic paints, these are beam paints I was very excited, and use them to color the blood moon. And so they're really sparkly and fun, and make really fun additions to your astronomy night journaling, or journaling the sky, the stars, moon, what have you. So that's fun as well. And then the more complex way of preparing a journal, and this, I learned a lot of this from Kristin Link here in Alaska. She has a great tutorial on this, is preparing ahead of time a really beautiful night sky palette, and just kind of a template or multiple ones in your journal before you go out. Make your observations, take notes, and then come back and record them using gel pen, and I like the combination of the white pencil or charcoal pencil, white charcoal, and the gel pen. So you can see the lighter parts are the nice sketchy bits with the pencil, and then the gel pen is that's what you use to do the stars. And honestly, I've used like a zillion of them, and Jack Laws recommended the Uniball Signo. The other ones I bought, they would gum up and stop working within, I don't know, a month or so. But these Signos have been going strong, so I highly recommend those. Here's another example. This was in the Sierra Nevada that we did the full moon. I did the approximation of the full moon coming up, and then the night sky at that time. And then you can do things as complex, if you like, as the aurora borealis, which I finally got to see about a week ago, which was exciting. So one of the things you'll notice is you'd be really tempting to like make this all black, like the Sharpie, but you'll notice it's a lot more interesting and kind of gives you the feeling of a deep night sky if you use these watercolor washes. And you can see by building up the washes, you can get some really beautiful dark at the top, colors in the middle, and I think it looks really quite much more attractive than just the black. Although the black is great if you just want to get down some data. And then finally, here's a really fun idea. We were doing this at the boot camp in April in Arizona. You can do what's really fun, thinking ahead, plan this in your journal. Here's the view looking east from our meadow location, and did a little cutaway where the journal opens up and journaled the night sky underneath. And it's really not hard to do. You just need a few tools. I keep in my little kit PVA glue, which is Elmer's glue, a scalpel. Actually, this is a bread lame knife. And I keep a glue brush because it's easier to brush your pages when you glue them together. And I'll kind of show you live some tips for that. But so fun to think different, right? Think outside the box, think creative. Sketch the view, your landscape that you're looking at, and then save a page behind it. And that night, journal the night sky that you're going to see behind it. Really, really fun. So let's look at how these things might play out. Valerie, yeah, so if you guys don't mind, just ask your questions out loud. I really don't mind, and that saves us from having to go back and forth to the chat too. Glue sticks I have tried. So Valerie asked, why not use a glue stick? They just, it eventually gives way. It doesn't, and it's a lot of real estate for a glue stick. Maybe you have access, you could give us a clue if you've used a good one, but the cheap ones I got just didn't seem to work. Which ones did you use, Valerie? Well, let me show you. I'm going to switch to my overhead camera here.
Roseanne, do the Signa pens come in different sizes?
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
They're just the one. Let me see if it even says. Unfortunately, this one is all marked in Japanese. So they may in Japan come in different sizes, but the ones I've have access to, and I know Jack's that he sells on his website just have the one size. So,
Roseanne, I'm looking, it's Anne Marie. I'm looking at mine, and mine has broad, the term broad on it. So there may be one that's narrow. I mean, that's making me think if they say broad on one of them, maybe there's one that's not broad.
This one might say that, but it's in Japanese.
Yeah, I know.
So good point.
I was trying to unmute myself and I actually accidentally turned on my video. So about the glue stick, I have a Scotch repositionable one, and I think I have somewhere maybe some Elmer's brand ones.
Yeah, the Elmer's I've tried, and those they would dry up in my journal kit. But I'm in Arizona, right? So.
If you want a more permanent glue stick, Uhu, UHU is a one. They're expensive, but they are more permanent.
Okay, everybody, thank you. So this is going to be in the chat. So Uhu is the brand of glue stick. Someone is saying works really well. And then Posca acrylic pens come in different sizes. So, and they work well. I haven't used them, but I know lots of people like that brand too. So here's what we might do. So starting with the lowest tack, here's what a Sharpie square looks like. And yes, you end up with, it's textury. It's really hard to get a super like smooth black, but why not? You could try also using black paint, but
Do you have a bleed through with the Sharpie?
No, not badly. I'm using 90 pound. It did a little bit. So I would, if you have heavier paper, it'll do better. But yeah, that's a good point. Put something under it and don't plan anything on the back of that page behind it. That's a really good point. But so for example, we have, let's look at the Pleiades. So I've got, let me set up my Zoom. So if you guys, if you end up talking out loud, don't forget to mute yourselves back on so that we aren't getting additional sound. So I am scooting over my view here. There we go. Okay. So let's say one of the fun things, constellation is the Pleiades, and I'm kind of going to focus on Pleiades today because it's quicker and easier to draw than say trying to do a much more complex night sky. And sorry, I do have my do not disturb on and it is still not working. So we know that that do not disturb is not working. Sorry about that. So you would just as quickly as you want, say you have a bunch of these little squares already in your journal, you can identify or do your Pleiades, say. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, right? And then did we get that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. And then if we want to name them, who can name all of the 7 sisters? So I can do a few, but you can see how nicely the gel pen works. Is Pleione one? We're testing our skills. Alcyone, I know. And we'll have to ground truth some of these, or sky truth, as it were. So you would go and you label. And if you wanted to add a little more interest in the with the Sharpie one, you can take your pencil, and if you have colored ones as well, you could, do add a little brightness to your main stars by doing halos. Would make it look just a little more fun there, to call those out. And then you have really quick and easy way to journal in your even while you're out. We use a headlamp with a red light, then you can do quite a bit, we've found. Then another fun thing, if you use the black paper, which black paper is a great thing to keep in the back of your journal to use for night journaling, but you can also use it for plenty of other things. Like you put a clear plastic plate over it, and you can use it to view the sky and then paint the sky. It's really fun. So black is very useful. But if you use white gouache, and I did this ahead of time again, so it would dry and you could see it and not have to wait for paint to dry. Is use the white gouache to draw your constellation character, like Ursa Major, and then draw in the stars over top with the gel pen, or a combination of gel pen and your charcoal pen. So you would, and then you would need to use a reference. I use Star Walk on my phone. That's a great app for looking at the constellations, and then it will do an overlay of the animal or figure that goes with the constellation. So you can use that at night. So here we are marking the stars using a reference. But this is fun because it gives you let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then we have kind of the body stars, and you can see how that works. And then I like to connect your constellation stars using the charcoal, because it's a little lighter than the Signa, the gel pen. So I think it shows the path a little better. If you use the gel pen, it's just a bolder look. you can also use the gel or the charcoal pen if you wanted to color in your constellations there instead of white gouache. But then there you have it. So that's just a really fun way to do your Ursa Major. So you would label it. And I really like the way that gel pen looks on the paper. And you would write the date and where you were so that you would get that on. And the same if you were doing, you know, the Big Dipper, if you will, which of course is part of Ursa Major. You would mark your stars. Let's see. Forgot to. There we go. There. So really fun and quick and easy. You can cut out small squares of the black paper and then paste them back into your journal. Let me show you what that looks like. And again, that's another good reason to have some glue or glue sticks. Here's an example of black paper that I was doing. This was a test of paint, but it could have been my star thing. I just pasted it in. I keep those in the back of the journal. Same thing, black paper doing mushroom print. So black paper is a great addition to your journal for doing fun things like that. So those are the like really easy, no drama. Now, if we want to do more drama, and this is a little more challenging, is when we do washes to get your night skies like this. And see, that's a big one. And so this was a bit of you had to work fast, and it's very marbly, and we're not looking for a super perfect wash here. Some of them work better than others. I'll show you kind of what the process is. Looking for one other one here. There we go. They're not, it just takes some layers on layers, and that's of course it's not presenting itself. There it is. This one, I like the layers came out really, really nice, and it just gives that look of the deep night sky. So what it looks like when you start out, and here are the paints that I'm using. Now I'm using pretty lightweight paper because that's what I use in my journal. I don't like to mix it around. So I just cope with the 90-pound paper, but something like a 130-pound would actually make this job much easier. So the paints I really like to use are Indigo. So I've got a little tube of Indigo here. Indigo is super forgiving, and I love it for doing night skies, and you'll see how it moves around more on the paper, is a little more forgiving than, say, phthalo or something like that. Plus, it's already just super dark. Then I do keep on hand some burnt sienna to make a really, really dark, and I'll show you that in a minute. So that's like black. And then Pthalo Blue. So the Pthalo Blue, and I think it's green shade, Indigo, burnt sienna are really great for doing night skies. And then for throwing in that pinky hue, I use the Quinacridone Rose. Look at that, really, this is one of my oldest palettes. It's really getting gnarly, but Quinacridone Rose is a great one for that. If you've got dried paint pans, don't forget to wake them up with a little spritz of water So you're,
What are the blues at the top of the palette on the bottom?
on this one, on these?
Yes.
Oh, you're testing me. Let's see. Oh, manganese blue, cobalt, and ultramarine. So this is, oops, close it. This is the sky palette.
Thank you.
It's got great blues in it for practicing all sorts of, from night skies to, cloudy skies. It's really fun.
And do you have a favorite 90-pound paper that you use?
Oh gosh, I did. It was the B watercolor paper, like BEE. And the company got bought, and they stopped doing the 90. You can still find it, but they're not going to be offering it anymore. And I'm still looking for a replacement. This is Speedball, and it's a 90 cotton, and it's great, but it's not my favorite yet.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do is we're going to start with a wash of the indigo. And we want to, depending on what you're drawing, if you're looking at the night sky and you're going to have a horizon at the bottom, like trees or a mountain, then you want to fade from dark at the top to lighter toward the trees and things at the bottom. I want to aim for doing the Pleiades again, so it's looking straight up. So I'm not going to do that fade. I'm not going to have the mountain at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is a square-ish of indigo, as pure as I can get. That's like super dark, and just work as quickly as you can, and don't go too big when you're first starting out. And you'll see what I really like about the indigo is it's pretty darn forgiving. We're going to do multiple layers, so I'm not going to worry too much about splotches and blotches. I'm actually going to be creating some bleeds and flares and things. So this is going to be pretty light when it dries. I'm going to drop in, because I want to get those interesting colors behind the Pleiades. So I'm dropping in pretty thick of Quinacridone Rose. And you see it's going to bloom, and I don't mind that. I'm actually going to be going back over it with more watercolor. So we're going to let that dry, and that's going to be my background for the Pleiades. If I were doing the kind of scene that has a horizon at the bottom, then I would do I would try to get as dark as I can at the top. And then I'm going to let the paint get much more light at the bottom, like so. Planning, then I would have trees and things, or a mountain, or buildings there. So if whoever is, check your mutes, please. I've got someone is not muted, so we can, oh, there. Mute. Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Okay, let me get back over here. Sorry about the arm in the way. So you can see how that's going to dry now. And this bloom is going to be really interesting. This is what they end up looking like. And they're really ugly, yeah, still. This is just one pass. And you just keep working with this to get to your next level. So we're going to add another layer of indigo. And I'm also going to, on the same pass here, I'm going to prepare some really dark on the right-hand side by mixing indigo and burnt sienna for a much blacker on the right there. So this puddle is really black. This still has the indigo-y, it's pure indigo. And so what we're going to do here is go right over it. I'm going to get some of that really dark on the edges. Now I'm going to grade this in using indigo here. And I'm going around the edges. Now I don't want a hard edge. So this is now, I'm putting indigo right over it. It's almost a color to glaze. It's really forgiving. And I'm going to end up with a nice glow in the middle to work with. Let's see if I can get this. All right. See how bad is this if I turn on, how bad is that for sound? Can you guys like still hear me?
Yeah, you can't even hear the hairdryer.
Cuts off the hairdryer sound. So you don't hear it at all.
Wow, okay. But you can see how the layers are now starting to build up nicely. And if I go with this one, now see that one's going to have lots of bloom. But the colors will be really pretty. And it's really wet. And when you're adding layers like this, the drying in between is super important. If I put the layer over when it's still wet, it starts to lift and pull everything off and kind of just wrecks your background. So to do the Pleiades, it would be really, now we just go back to our reference photo here and add our stars right over. And what's really fun is, and I'm talking and doing this all at the same time, so I might be getting these in slightly the wrong place, but when you do this yourself, you can make sure they're exactly proper. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 8. So one of these is the sisters has an extra. There's a lot more stars in there than just the 7, but that gives you an idea of then when you start to label, the constellation, it really makes it pop. And once it's dry, you can write right over it. Etc. So we would go around and name our Pleiades, and then don't forget to label your where you are, what location, and you've got a really great night sky. Let's see what we can do with this one. Now look at the difference between first pass, second pass. This one, the interior colors just didn't work as well. So let's see what happens. Can I augment them? Can I fix this? And that's just really good to learn. I'm going to get it lightly wet and then see what happens when I drop in. I'm going to drop in Quinacridone Rose, and I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit of the Phthalo Blue. And now let's go with some Indigo. I'm letting it blend. Boy, this is getting really wet. You see how I'm making sure there aren't any hard edges. Oops. Now, if you have to be careful not to pull paint off. It just takes a little practice. This is why I work pretty small. Here's the black around the outside. And it's wet enough that it's, you're doing wet and wet. So we're getting some good blending. Again, what I really like about the Indigo is it's very forgiving. Phthalo doesn't tend to be as forgiving. There. So I think that's going to dry pretty nice. It's really wet though. Look at that. Ah. So we'll get much closer to that for the night sky and doing something like the Pleiades. So it makes it look like you're looking into the universe. Looking at what would this look like to do the scary part, which would be, how do you do like the Aurora Borealis? And that does take some practice. And I've got, let's see if I can get this. My water is very blue, but what you do is working as quickly as you can. I'm just going to do one Aurora streak. Whoops. First, what I'm going to do, see if I can get a slightly damp. And then I'm going to try one Aurora streak. I'm not going to try to get too artistic here. Let's say we've got like one of the columns going. Then working as quickly as I can, I want to try to get my sky around it. And I need it to be fairly damp I don't want any hard edges, which I got on this one. So I wasn't working quickly enough. And I can fix that on the second pass. But see, now it looks more like a comet. What I wanted was for that to blend in a little better. And it takes a little bit of practice to get that done. So let me try that again. Just showing here. So if you have your yellow Aurora streak, then working as quickly as you can there, pushing up against it, but not too much. You want it to bleed a little. And there, that's starting to bleed. And if you can come in and even with wetter yellow and really push those edges out. Say your Aurora was really like active and had a lot of tendrils, then you push that yellow out let that dry, and then you can do a wash over it for a second pass. And maybe even augment the greeny bits, because some of the auroras are like really green. So say I come in here with a lot more blue. To enhance that aurora color. And you can just see how the layers, you keep building layers. Pushing that down. Trying to get rid of some of those hard edges there. You know, that's just a random shape, but you could do your, you know, depending on aurora's shape, they can be, you know, like these almost columns of pillars of light, like so. And so just keep working on playing with your shapes. The one I did had these wonderful, like, I ended up pushing blue into it very, very carefully because it had these streaks in it. And this probably took about 4 passes of working on the color to get that with the glow behind it. And I got a little bit of the bleed on there, but I think that came out. But you can see how you just keep layering, letting it dry and working on it, so you get your kind of aurora effect. Let's see how these other ones are doing too. This one is looking really pretty. That one's, I really like this one, has some really pretty color in it. And this is, it's going to be like that. I like the fluffy clouds around it. That's going to be really nice. So these are all really, really fun to do. Now it does lighten up. As you dry, of course. And if you want it to be darker, just add more layers. Just make sure those layers are dried in between. Yeah, see, that really lightened up. So I might do a wash over that once it's dry. You could do a wash of indigo or experiment. Try a wash of phthalo blue, which would brighten it and make it lighter. There's this one spot right there that does not want to dry. Come on. There we go. It's finally dry. It looks pretty cool.
Looks like a nebula.
I know. I was just thinking, like, do I want to mess this up or do I want to leave it and, you know, use it for recording some other star cluster or something? You can use your pencils to create more, you know, more of the star nebula dust, if you will, or something like that. That would be amazing. You could try adding other color wash on top. if you really got it, the Quinacridone Rose and Pthalo Blue much more juicy, then you're going to get these bleeds, these feathers, which again, you know, maybe you want that if you're approximating, say you're doing a nebula or something like that. But I kind of like this. I'd be tempted to do a phthalo wash over it. What do you guys think? Should we see what that looks like? Or do we want to leave it? Vote. Go ahead and just say out loud. What do you think? Should I wreck it? Let's see.
Give it a try.
Yeah,
Go
this
ahead.
is about experimenting. So
No. I'd leave it.
it's so hard.
Leave it.
I'm always
Yeah.
the one who's saying, like, you have to learn how to stop, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's easy to get to that stage, but it's not easy to
Yeah,
get that
you can't go
satisfaction.
back. You can't go back to this once I add a wash. So that's really fun. Let's look at what we would do if you wanted to do a little, let's turn this into a horizon. So I would create a very dark, do a black. I have done dark green as well. It depends kind of on where I am. But this I'm going just mostly just full black, really. As you can see with the Aurora one, this is a combination of blacks and dark greens, because that was a really bright sky. But say I'm doing, let's say I'm doing, we're on our way to Tucson soon. So I'm going to do, we won't do conifers. But this gives it a really nice grounding. Let's say my paint is not quite thick enough. I want to do saguaro cactuses. But my paint is too runny. Out of practice on my saguaros. There we go. So say I'm at Saguaro National Park. So this is how you would just make a fun little landscape in front of your night sky. Like that. So there you can see suddenly that frames it really nicely. If you wanted to, you could, you know, draw a black border around it, or if you're so inclined, I've done this before, use your white washi tape to block off a nice square to while you're doing your painting. I've actually come to like my raggedy edges, but just do whatever works for your style. And then maybe you've got a beautiful you know, moon and Venus. I can't remember where they are in the sky right now, but maybe we have just a beautiful crescent moon, or then you have your like barely like that, and then maybe Venus is rising in the west. You can really have fun. I like the charcoal a lot for feathering feathering that in. So you get a really fun night sky then. Right, yeah, so this is going to be a fun one. I'll have to find a good constellation or nebula to do with that one, because it did come out. And then you could cut it out and paste it in your main journal. And that's just a really easy, fun way to do that. So finally, let's look at just a couple of tips on doing these cutaways, which I think I have to admit, I kind of went crazy with the cutaway ideas. I'm gonna have plenty of space here. So where's our peekaboo here, I call it? There. So you plan ahead. You want to find a horizon, something to look at that has not too much detail. You don't want to go bonkers with what you do. Remember, you need 2 pages. So this is 2 pages glued together. And you'll want to, on your first page, scribe your horizon. Second page, you're going to want to maybe measure, however eyeball it, but making sure you get your horizon in the same place, and your there in this case the mountains. So I chose something simple, and then create you do them at the same time or different times, doesn't matter, but do your main landscape, I'd probably do first. Then with a pencil, mark your window where you want that to be, planning it. I decided I wanted a curve because it seemed to me that would represent kind of the approximation of a night sky dome, if you will. Then in the back of my journal, I keep all sorts of stuff though, plexiglass, but a little piece of cardboard. Then I would put that behind the first page and cut out my window. Remembering, don't forget to mark your hinges. So it's easy to forget and cut off your page and not have your hinges. So you do that, then remove so I keep, this is a great little tool. It's a bread lame that's called, it's what they use, bakers use, and it comes with a nice protective cover. So it's what they use to score the tops of bread for baking. And it fits in a journal. It's really lightweight. So I use that to cut. Then mark in pencil your window on the next page after you take your cardboard out, and then do your night sky there. And then the final thing that you do is to, on the back of this page, use your glue brush or fingers or whatever to spread your glue. Don't forget. And again, you have to think really hard because it's easy to accidentally put glue on your windows. So make sure you're not gluing your windows, but put glue all around the back of your first page and then glue it on top, and then weight it down with something heavy for a while to get it to stick. And then you have a really fun cutout, which I had a lot of fun with. I kind of got bonkers with it, also doing, this is just kind of more fun views. You can do it to do things like, a bird was nesting in this tree, and then envisioning what it would look like underneath. So you can do all sorts of fun things. You can do an underwater view. You could do whatever. It's really fun. So those are our fun, creative skies. Let me switch back to the me video. There we go. So any other tips, questions, ideas? Let me see. If I can read the chat here. Anything in the chat? Let's see. Oh, scalpel out alternative. Dick Blick. Oh, nice. Does that one have a oops. Boy, I'm getting
Hi.
this is strange. I'm getting an echo. Okay, someone had two devices on. That's what was going on. The Dick Blick scalpel alternative, does it have a protective cover? Hopefully. And the ceramic blade. So where do you get those? I had one. That's a great idea. So I had one for cutting things out of magazines, but I haven't seen a source for those. Anyone have that?
I think
I
Jet
think-
Pens might have
Yeah.
one.
Works.
Who does? Write it in the chat if you know a location. Slice at Amazon. Jet Pens. Thank you. So it's called
Yeah.
a ceramic. I don't have mine to hand. I think it's in another location, but those are super safe because you can't. Do they cut through watercolor paper though?
I think they can. You can get one with a very tiny blade that won't go much further than that. You can also, I have my X-Acto retractable blade, which looks like a mechanical pencil, but it has a tiny blade that you can push out and pull back.
Oh, that's fun. That's
Yeah, that's an X-Acto. I've had
Okay.
it for so I don't.
fun.
I guess you probably wherever X-Acto has stuff.
Yeah, that's like the
You can
gold standard.
retractable tiny ceramic blade. I think I have one of those, but it's in another room.
So Lisa's asking about sparkly paints. So I would use those. So they're hard to use on top of colored of something that already has paint on it, unless you mix them in with the paint while it's going down. The sparkles tend to remove, if you put other paint on top of this paint, it's going to change the way it looks. The sparkle paint works best on black paper. And the only sparkle paint I have with me right now is this one. Let me grab it. I don't have the beam paints with me. But this is almost cooler. This is, let me switch to my other camera here, because this is kind of cool. Hopefully it's still, yeah, okay. So this is very sparkly paint. And this is paint I just made. It's going to take a minute to dry, or maybe I'll hit it with the dryer. From the Castner Glacier, which is up the Alaska range from us. And it's glacial flower, it's called. I went to the glacier, the outflow in the Castner River, and secured the sediment and made paint from it. And it works best on the dark paper, because it's like a gouache. It's opaque. So I would do the same thing. I would draw a constellation with it. But you can see it's drying there. It's full of micaceous paint particles. It's very sparkly, or excuse me, dirt or particles. Let me show you what would happen if I put it on this. Let's see. I think that's good. a good test. Or also there's this sparkly graphite. Let's see what that would do. So if I use this to paint, like say, maybe I'm trying to get auras around, rings around the stars, maybe. Let's see if that does anything. It's picking up the blue because I'm getting a blue cast there. It is working a little bit. Let me see what happens if I get it really watery. Oops, see it picked up. You see what I mean by it picked up the paint that was already on. So you just have to be careful. I would have had to maybe mix that in with the phthalo or the magenta. You see, it created a little bit of a hard line. But that works. So any of those other sparkly, like the beam paints, that would work the same way. You would need to plan ahead and put it in with your paint here, or use it on black paper, because now I could go in and do my stars over top, or my writing. Although it's going to get pigment particles in my pen, so that's really fun. And then the graphite would be the same. Let's see what it looks like. I'm just going to hit that with the dryer, see what happens. No, so the graphite doesn't have a light enough base where my I don't know, it's similar. I don't know. I like the glacial sparkles better. But just experiment with what you have. I think that works. Any other let's see, I'm looking at the chat here. Oh, Coliro paint from Germany has microparticles. That's great. So just mix that with your other so if you're using indigo, you could pre-mix. Let's see if that would work there. Didn't even great ideas, guys. So, you know, I like all of us kind of thinking of these ideas ahead of time. Here I'm just gonna I'll let you know it'll dry and we'll see. But yeah, so Beam Paints, BEAM, has lots of fun sparklies. I'm looking at it here. I'm mixing my sparkly paint with the indigo. It's not really all that great. So I would stick with the dark paper. And then Lisa says Legion paper makes little square pad, 2.5 by 3.75 inches pad of paper called Stonehenge. Wonderful. That would be perfect to keep those in. I love that idea.
Roseanne, this is what it looks like.
Oh, let me find you. Hold on. I'm going to go to gallery view and then say again. I need to find you.
Right here.
Wait, I gotta wait. Oh, there you are, Lisa.
There you
Okay.
are. Yeah.
I it's hard in the gallery. Let's see.
Yeah, it's this really tiny little pad of paper.
Ooh, oh my gosh, that's custom made for making little sky and like little starscapios. Okay, I gotta order that right away. We're all gonna like trump over and order a bunch today. I can feel it happening. Fun. Any other great tips? Oh yes, Valerie, thank you. Daniel Smith Paints does have a lot of really cool paints that have high sparkle factors. So amethyst, I do have their amethyst back in Tucson. I've never used it in a Starscape though, so we'll have to test all those. But yeah, look for paints that have lots of fun sparkles.
Yeah, they have shimmer ones and then ones that are called interference, where if you put it over, you can hardly see it. It's a little bit shimmery, but if you put it over a dark color, it really pops.
Nice. Love
Is it
that.
Weird optical effect to it.
And so Daniel Smith, Catherine reminds us too that they have a beautiful color called Moonstone that has good colors. So I was doing mine with just kind of the colors I have, because I don't tend to carry a bunch of other stuff. Although, you know, my little, this is my handmade earth watercolors that I have that I made from things I collect, and just happen to now have sparkly glacial paint. So that's changed my night skies. But I'm not really loving it over the watercolor. I like it on the black paper.
Do you have any recommendations as far as painting the moon?
Yes, I think that the white gouache on black paper is one of the best ways to play with that. You can get a very nubbly, you know, you want to have craters and interest and things like that. That's the easiest way. The other way, making a dark ground, is going to be a little more challenging with, again, you're moving paint around if you add paint on top of your prepared ground. So I think adding white gouache on top would be, I'm playing with that as we speak. I've tried it and wasn't super happy with it, but it would work. You just have to realize you're going to be moving paint around, and you're probably going to have to do multiple layers. But white gouache, and you guys tell me what your favorites are, but I've tried 3 or 4, and so many of them just end up really, they're very watery and thin. And the Holbein Artists, it's called G630. I will put that in the chat, is like the best white gouache ever. It's permanent white. I really like it. I don't know how much money I wasted on gouache. So Holbein G630 permanent white. And I do keep it in the tube. I don't squeeze it out into a pan. I'm looking for a little tiny container I can put it in, and then I'll have wet gouache always. It's great for fixing mistakes, for doing the moon. I really like, I think I showed you the colored pencils as well for the moon, if you've got, you know, your blood moon or what have you, on the black paper. Again, black paper is so useful for that. So really a fun way to add interest. Any other, iridescent white from Winsor and Newton? Oh, that's fun.
Do you have a recommendation for black paper that you like to use?
I'm using Canson multi-media black paper. It's, I think, 130 pound. And then,
Nice.
and then don't forget the fun suggestion Lisa made for Legion papers, Stonehenge black, which is cold press in the little pads, would be just, I'm going to go order several of those right away. We're probably going to clean them out. So
you can get these sealable gouache palettes on Amazon. There's lots of different kinds. I have my big one here because I can't find my small one at the moment.
yeah,
But
I've seen those.
And then the silicone mat that seals it against moisture loss.
Oh,
and you still
doesn't.
have need maintenance on it to keep things from drying out if you like abandon it for a year, or it might grow mold.
Yeah,
Like a spritz of water mixed with clove oil to stop the mold. But
Yeah, that's a good tip. I
Yeah.
only use, so here's, let me just really quick show you what the white gouache looked like over the prepared ground, I call it. It came out pretty cool. Oops, let me spotlight. Check this out. You would need to do multiple layers, but that's white gouache moon over the ground. So I think
Roseanne, could you repeat the gouache again that you use?
which one? Yes, it's the Holbein permanent white G60, no, G630. So I really like that. I mean, it has a really beautiful, very opaque, very, very useful. So you could definitely, but you have to let it dry and work on layers and layers. Use it on a ground. Just remember you're going to be picking up bits of your color. So just watch it when you do that. So, all right. That was fun. So if any, send me examples so I can post them. Oops, hold on. I'm trying to find my video again. Send me examples of what you guys are experimenting with. It's always fun to see. We always learn from each other. That's kind of the point. I got so many of my ideas from Kristin Link. And she's got really fun tutorials on that. So, we all learn from each other. So thank you so much for coming today. Email me your examples and I'll send out the recording. I also I put in the chat, if you enjoyed it and you want to contribute a little bit to the tip jar, I put that in there very much. So this was fun. I really loved diving into the night skies stuff. So,
hey, Roseanne, can I ask you a quick question about, it's Kirsten Carlson.
yeah.
I wanted you to selflessly promote what you're going to be doing at the Wild Wonder Conference online.
Thank you.
Not signed up yet, and because the times are so bad for us here in Europe, it's horrible. I can't go live, and if I don't go live, I usually don't go to the recording. So it's so tempt me, please.
Okay, well, thank you, Kristen. We have coming up next week, starting Wednesday, the Wild Wonder Foundation's Nature Journaling Conference. Anne Marie's here. She's going to work with us on creating the back end and all the admin for that. And I'm going to be teaching a maps class, but we have 30 programs total with 30 instructors. It works out to be like something like less than $8 a class. You buy one ticket and you can spend all 5 days. We've got Kristin Link is teaching. We've got Rosalie Hazlitt. We've got so many great people working with us. So thank you, Anne Marie. Put the link there for signing up. And of course, the Wild Wonder Foundation, we use the proceeds to support all sorts of things, including scholarships. So if you can't afford it, please apply for a scholarship. The deadline for the scholarships is tomorrow. So be sure to get on there. Yay, Anne's going to be there. Wonderful. Thank you. Did I forget anything else, Anne Marie?
Well, I thought I'm going to quickly try to find the auction link, because if you can't come to the conference, there's 100 incredible items for the auction. So if you keep talking, Roseanne, I will get that link.
So someone asked about recordings. So the cool thing about Wild Wonder Foundation, the conference, is you get 6 months to watch everything. You can go back 6 months and look at the recordings. And we're some of the best teachers in the world are teaching. There's going to be some really, really fun ones. Someone says, ouch, I spent a fortune last year on the auction. I got on a bidding war trying to get, who knows, the Headless Sketcher, his work. I really wanted some of his work, and I got in a bidding war and lost.
Oh, Roseanne, there are 3 of his all as a package deal, just so you know.
I'm gonna try again. I'm
This
gonna try
year.
again. He's such a sweetie too.
And I want to say, because I will promote you, there's an incredible package that Roseanne is putting together. It's classes and supplies and books, and it's huge. So
for the auction.
it's
So
a
on the
whole
auction.
kit for the auction. So check out the auction if you're at all interested. You don't have to attend, but it certainly supports the foundation and the expansion of what the foundation can do. So thank you everyone for considering.
Thank you. Anne Marie and Vicky asked, where did I get the bread slicer thingy? On Amazon. Just look up bread lame. Let me type that in. Bread Lame. It has an accent, but you know, bread lame is what they're called. So super fun. So any other questions, comments? Thank you all for catching the time zone problem. That was my fault. I thought I was going to be in Arizona. So I didn't swap it in my head because I'm still in Alaska. Tiffany, I see Tiffany. Tiffany, we so lucked out on the weather. It's been horrible up here since you left. It's just been nonstop rain. So
yeah, my brother had a lot of rain too. It's been bad up there.
okay.
It was so beautiful while we were there though.
I know, we so lucked out. All right. Thank you, everybody. I will get the recording out later today. Okay. Take care.